The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and think
He missed the complete that. He's crazy
Side by
stuff.
side, Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
This season's Formula Neagle Cup has turned into a clash of the titans. Dominating performances by the top runners have made even small mistakes extremely costly. But with Johan van der Velde, who has led nearly the whole season in points, unable to show for the finale, it has meant the thrilling championship chase ended in the penultimate round instead of today. Can Tuan Tran continue his end-of-season form and extend his hat trick of wins to 4? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the final round of the Absolute Beginners Formula Neagle Cup live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I am Joe Peak, and welcome to the picturesque Watkins Glen. With me in the booth today is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director Amjad Yaman, and his cameras have been provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, having seen everything from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to even the USCC, the Glen has been host to just about every type of road racing you can imagine. But today, our drivers are taking the small and nimble Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars to the track. What are they up against at this popular circuit?
Drafting, slipstreaming and slingshots, oh my, that's what we are going to see today, Joe. These underpowered cars have huge rear wings to help the program students learn how to use a draft. This today, though, is going to be an entirely different lesson for this group, and some of these absolute beginners are going to get schooled. Do not let the 11 turns deceive you. This is a road course version of Talladega, and at 3.4 miles, that's 5.7 kilometers, we are going to see a thriller of a 70-minute race today. So let's give you an idea of what it's like with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we've got Amjad Yaman and the GSRC Skippy, so let's do a lap around Watkins Glen. Coming down to turn 1, you've got a really good place to pass, but you might want to think twice about it before attempting it. More on that in a second. There's plenty of paved runoff on the outside, but you still don't want to overcook the entry to this corner. It's very important to line up your exit and get on the power as soon as you can, because we're not getting off the gas all the way until the inner loop. Now, we're climbing up the S's, and it's fairly steep, so it'll make our carried momentum all the more important. Once we get to the top, we're already cutting a big hole in the air behind us, and this is where it becomes obvious why you shouldn't pass in turn 1. The car behind you is going to be reeling you in at a rate of knots, and if they were close enough coming out of turn 1, they'll probably be well past you by the time we brake for the inner loop. Now, if two cars come into here side by side, it usually doesn't end well. Expect a few tangles or a cut course penalty to be given out at this section. After that, it's right into the carousel, and the banking will allow you to really take this long corner at a fair clip. It also lends itself to some exciting side-by-side action. Once you come out of the corner, you'll immediately switch across the track to set up for the chute. You'll have to fight the urge to apex early, despite the lack of runoff, because the late apex will serve you much better off here. Once more, we switch sides on the course, and as we hit the bottom of the hill, we'll want to slow the car down for the toe of the boot. This is yet another case where you'll be aiming for that apex later in the corner. Get your right foot down as soon as you dare though, because it's a steep climb up onto the straight. Anyone who hesitates is likely to be vulnerable, and so the heel of the boot is going to be a popular passing spot during the race. In fact, it's the last good overtaking spot on the lap, so this is the place to make it count. Now the heel presents a challenge though. Get as close to that inside curb as you can, but don't clip it or else it'll unsettle the car. After that, we get ready to re-enter the main course with turn 9. The track rises and then crests in the middle of the corner, making the understeer very difficult to deal with. From there, we've only got a short blast until Indianapolis, which will require a little lift on entry. There's a very particular groove here, and getting tucked into it will be all important to a good execution. After that, there's just one more to go, so switch left, throw out the anchors, and try to carry your momentum around the banking. Just be careful not to clout the tire barrier on the outside and ruin your day. If you manage to do all that, you finished a lap around Watkins Glen. Now, you may have noticed that that car went through the inner loop on the backstretch. These drivers will not be taking that version today. They are on the classic boot layout. So that is the only difference that they will have. They will go straight through and on into the carousel from the backstretch. So it's going to be a much faster entry and taking them through a slightly different line through that corner. Now, let's talk about the championship, which, as we mentioned in the pre-race, is in fact over at this point with Johan van der Velde unfortunately not able to come and try to fight against Tuan Tran, who has sealed it up at 99 points. 5 points back. Johan van der Belt, as we said, not here today. He's not going to be able to overtake him. But both of them are sealed into their positions because in third place, Pierre Kaki at 61 points. His rookie season, impressive job. No wins yet, though. But he has worked his way up to third through consistency. Vincent Brame, not as good as we've seen him in past seasons, but still solidly in fourth place at 55 points. And then Eric Lukol, not a driver we've seen really up at the front in the races, but again, consistency has paid off there, and he has worked his way into the top 5, although he is going to be fighting for that today with newcomer Johan Hulberg trying to steal that away from him in the top 5. But on the team side, what are we looking at over there, Sam?
Well, you saw that Tuan Tram was leading the driver's standings, and in fact it is also his team leading the team standings here, and it has a massive lead over 4X Racing Team A. Tran's team is 2B1 Racing, whereas Johan van der Belt it also races for the 4X Racing Team A there, so first goes to first, second goes to second. But then we got Two Stupid Dogs Racing currently sitting there third in the points, and their top driver in the driver's standings right now is Vincent Brame. And then sitting in fourth place is Damage Beyond Recognition 1. There's also Damage Beyond Recognition 2 team down in ninth in the standings. And then also Team iRacing Sweden is tied with Damage Beyond Recognition 1 there for fourth in the points. So it'll be interesting to see which of those two comes out on top today, because the top 3 are far a ways ahead of that battle for fourth.
So still a fair bit to be fighting for, and drivers will be hoping for good finishes to keep from losing positions in the team's championship as well. Even though our top 5 are pretty solidly in position in the drivers' championship, other guys farther down the line will be fighting with each other to try and get one more spot up in the championship. Now, you mentioned the drafting here, Sam, and we've seen this before in this series with Road America in the previous week and other places where there's just long straights and this little car cuts a surprisingly big hole in the air. And with this being a 70-minute race, I have a feeling that it's going to be a bit of a fuel battle, if anything, strategy-wise.
Absolutely, it could very well be. You save a lot of fuel by drafting the car in front of you. That being said, if these drivers get a little bit too rowdy at the beginning, if there's an incident that breaks the field up, that could turn this into a completely different kind of race if they all get broken up and then they're just going to have a foot to the floor and see how fast it goes. But if that doesn't happen, and we hope it doesn't, we will see a bit of pack racing, which could play into strategy today, because as you mentioned, this is a 70-minute race, so that's going to be around 30 to 35 laps. And of course, one thing about the draft here, though, is it does make you wonder where you're going to have to make your passes. Even though turn 1 is an overtaking opportunity, it's kind of pointless, because if you make your move there, you just might lose that position on the run down towards the carousel.
Yeah, and especially with no inner loop in this configuration, that gives you even more of a length of that backstretch to try and catch and run down the person next to you. And to make things even more fun, that carousel is very heavily banked, which means side-by-side racing there is very much doable.
Absolutely, it's doable around a lot of this track, honestly. It's a pretty wide circuit, although there are walls ready to catch you out on the left and the right-hand side, not too far away at any point on the track. But that being said, of course, the downside to side-by-side racing is it slows you both down, and that could be a problem if you're running behind another car. If you're racing side-by-side, not only are you losing time to the car in front, you could also be losing his draft, which could hurt you time-wise and fuel-wise for the rest of your stint.
Undoubtedly. Now, the timer is ticking down on the qualifying session, which they are currently in. We're going to get you that qualifying order as soon as everybody's finished their hot laps around there. But you might be wondering, since we have the top positions in the championship pretty much sealed up, what is there to watch today? What is worth paying attention to? A number of things I feel like that we need to kind of keep an eye on. Hallberg, as I mentioned, he came in halfway through the season, has yet to win a race despite his speed. He's got a second place at Suzuka. He finished in 5th at Mosport, infamously running out of fuel. And I was trying to remember exactly where he finished at Road America, actually, off the top of my head. I don't have my notes in front of me at the moment on that. But still waiting to get that P1. And the question is, can he do it before the season is out to try and get himself some momentum to try and take the championship next season? And it looks like qualifying is over. Everybody's lining up, so let's go through the order. Tuan Tran is on the pole. Johan Hallberg, looking for that P1, is going to start on the outside of the front row. Wojciech Podacek is going to be starting in 3rd with Vincent Brame in 4th. Joachim Lundgren starts in the top 5 with Bastian Huseman rounding out row 3, Sam.
On the 4th row will be Piers Koki, and alongside him will be Michael Enstrom. Behind him on the 5th row on the grid, rounding up the top 10, will be Marcel Siedel and David J. Burns, and then Eric Lukal and Daniel Holblin will round out row 6.
Liam Quinn starts in 13th, followed by Lorne Murray in 14th, Stefan Schmidt in 15th, and Richard Cullum in 16th. Then it's Frederick Neptune starting the race in P17, followed by Stephen Paul in 18th. Dennis Neagle will start in 19th, and then we've got 2 non-qualifiers. Guys didn't set a time. Daniel DeVos in 20th, and Neil Bamber in 21st. Not sure if they are going to be lining up. I don't see Neil on the grid, and it looks like Daniel is on the grid at the moment. So potentially 20 cars. We're waiting for the lights to come up, and then we are going to get racing here today at the Glen for the final round of this season of the Absolute Beginners Formula Neagle Cup. There you can see them on the front row up in front of the infamous yellow and red stands here at Watkins Glen. So
yeah, it looks
ahead.
like Neil Bamber isn't in the session, so we will have just 20 cars taking green.
Decent numbers here for the end of the season, end of this series. 20 cars of the Skippies with the lights up is plenty to give us some action. Engines are revving. Red lights are up. Green is out, and they are off and away from the line. Tuan Tran with a good start up at the front. Holding off Hallberg, already looking to try and get single file here down into the 90. This can sometimes cause trouble, this right-hander, but everybody is giving each other space, and it looks like everybody is through fine.
Yeah, usually one of the more treacherous first corners at Watkins Glen, but today it seemed to go quite nicely. These drivers know they have a long race in front of them, but I have a feeling we might see a lead change, because here, using the outside, comes Johan.
We've got a wreck in the back. Holbling is involved in that. Trying to get to it. Unfortunately, I can't get the cars on my screen, but we've got a 3-way battle for the lead. Wojciech Podacek is streaming up into the front ahead of both Hallberg and Tuan Tran.
That shows you just how strong the draft is. He was able to go from 3rd to 1st in one straight with no more power than any of the others, but let's see how long he can hold on to it, because he's got 3 drivers right on his rear wing.
Yes, that would be Hallberg, Tuan Tran, and then in 4th, Vincent Brame, the teammate to Podacek, who is going to try and get 2 stupid dogs up maybe 1 more position in the points and now head through the toe of the boot. Most everybody single file a little bit farther back. Looks like David Burns is trying to overtake Mikael Engstrom, but they are now back to single file, and the lead is changing once again.
Hallberg will take it, and that's really one of the last solid overtaking opportunities on the racetrack here, so maybe that means he will end up leading this first lap. There's just 3 turns between them and the start-finish line right now.
As Sam mentioned, this track is almost Talladega-esque in the way these drivers are going to be racing it today. So these lead positions, though exciting, aren't going to mean a whole lot here in the early stages. They're going to have 2 pit stops today in this 70-minute race. So strategy could definitely take an effect on how things play out towards the end. Now, as they come across the line for the first time, Hallberg leads. Wojciech Podacek down in 2nd. Tuan Tran, our championship winner this season, is in 3rd. And Brame is close behind. Not far back behind them in 5th. We've got Lundgren and Piers Koki very close to one another. It sounds like we got a replay for that first lap crash, so why don't we go back to that? See what exactly happened here. It was in the S's, I know that. We're looking at Daniel Holbling, excuse me. And we had some cars side by side up into the left-hander. Oh, it's difficult to tell from that angle. It looks like someone got tipped. Didn't quite have the right line, it looks like, Sam. We're going to look at it from the blimp.
Yeah, as we get another replay, I'll let you know Tuan Tran has retaken the lead. Another slipstreamer move down towards the carousel. Here we get another replay of the incident.
Oh, looks like the car behind just had a lot more momentum than Holbling. Didn't expect him to slow up there and got into the back of him. That was unusual.
And the unfortunate thing for those drivers is that there's no free repairs in this series, and given the amount of damage it looks like those two machines involved have, unfortunately that might be their season done.
A sad way to close it out. They also have a 24 incident limit, so these guys can't be going off track too much around this course. Up at the front, it is still Tran in the lead. This time, Potacek not trying to look to get past him into the heel of the boot. And our top four are starting to put just a little bit of a gap on the cars behind.
Yeah, and the way Tuan Tran got the lead was the same way that we saw the lead change hands on the first lap. He was in third, entering the run down towards the carousel, but just the draft is so huge here, he got the run on the two cars in front of him and was able to have the lead before they got to the corner, and he is going to come around and lead the second lap here, but do not expect him to lead the third one, because he has definitely not been able to break away from the field. That is really the goal if you get up front. Try and put distance between yourself and the cars behind, and as you can see early on, it's difficult to do.
Absolutely. Now, a little bit farther back, we might have actually caught it a little bit on screen. Pierre Skaki had a big moment coming through turn 9, re-entering the main course. He was managed to catch the slide, but that has not helped him try to get away from Joachim Lundgren, and this is for that top 5 position as they head back up the hill. Joachim closing in with the draft just behind them. They've got Bastian Huseman also trying to squeeze in there. Joachim's going to look to the outside as they hit the top of the hill.
Meanwhile, they're going straight wide for the lead again. It looks like Johan Holberg, who once again started the lap in third place, is gonna take the lead into the carousel, and they're all trying to get single file. The battle's still on for second.
Man, usually the theory is you don't want to be in first, you want to be in second, but I think in this case you want to be in third come the final lap. Cars behind, two teammates battling, Potacek and Brame, but it's Potacek who comes out up front of that two in third place. And now you can just see how much these top 4 have actually streaked away from 5th place Lundgren. On screen, that gap is visually getting much larger, almost 2 seconds between 4th and 5th.
And to confirm, the second driver we saw involved in the opening lap, Frederick Neptune, has retired from the race, as has Daniel Holblin now. But yeah, these 4 drivers, I almost wonder if they're agreeing to do this, Joe, if they're agreeing to slingshot each other, knowing that that's actually helping them, because they're as a group, they're running faster down the backstretch, and that's actually helping them pull away from the pack behind.
Yeah, and we saw this last week at Road America, where once again it was top 4. Different drivers last time, but it was the top 4 drivers that started to pull away and just put a gap on the rest of the field, and some of them did seem to be working together. We'll have to wait and see if they try and even pit together. I have a feeling that the 2 Stupid Dogs teammates will, in fact, try and duck off into the pits once we get to that first pit window and work together on that. I believe they did that last season as well when we came to Watkins Glen. Now we see that top 4 working their way up the S's one more time. This time it's Hallberg up in the lead, Tuan Tran closing in, and that black and tan machine looks to the outside. This is the popular move so far. A little bit farther back this time for Potacek and Brame, so they're not going to be able to close in and try and make it 3 wide for the lead, but Tuan Tran slips on past, and we have yet another lead change.
Yeah, the top two there definitely had a bit more of a breakaway coming out of turn one, which seemed to be the goal. You just need to try and build a gap on the guy behind, and then he's not really able to run you down as well. He doesn't have time to make a move. Oh, Tran getting very loose there through the left hand, able to hold onto it though. Keeps the lead. It probably cost him a little bit of time. But that being said, Potajek has closed back in on them a little bit, so we'll wait and see if he's sitting in the catbird seat next time around.
And behind them, we've been watching the battle between Huseman and Pierre's Cocky for that 5th and 6th position as well. They've got Lundgren, Seidel, and Burns all trying to get in the mix, and I think this is why this second pack is starting to fall back. These guys are battling down into the chute side by side, which can be very tricky. And Huseman way off the apex on the heel of the boot, which allows Cocky to close back in, but not close enough to try and squeeze by here in turn 9. Look at all the ground that he has gained, though. He was a couple car lengths back, and now he is within a car length of Huseman coming into these final corners. I have a feeling he's not going to be trying anything down into the 90, though. Everybody single file in this 5th to 9th place little train.
Of course, this pack is going to begin getting a little bit more impatient a bit earlier on than what the drivers up front are, because say you're the driver in 6th or 7th, seeing the pack of 4 cars at the front pulling away, you're thinking, hey, I have a pace to get up to those cars in front, let me lead this pack. But then, of course, all the other drivers are thinking the same thing. They begin battling and it all begins working against them. Meanwhile, it looks like we're going to have another 3 wide for the lead.
Indeed, and it looks like this time it's going to be Hallberg who's going to overtake. Switching places with Tran. Tran still a little bit to the inside. Is he going to give it up? He's trying to get back in the line. Yes, he backs out of it. So yeah. Hallberg takes over P1.
Potajek had the run. He could have easily gone 3 wide and, in my opinion, had the lead before the first turn, but he chose not to do that, and he remained in 3rd position.
There we see our top 4. I'm jumping a little bit back, though, to Huseman, who is looking to the inside into the chute on Pierre's Cocky. And it's like you said, when you've got that draft, it always feels like I'm faster than that guy in front. But I think it's a little bit flattered. It's a bit of an illusion. And anything to stroke a driver's ego, they're going to accept that as real. Here we see that second train. Pierre's Cocky leading the way in 5th. These guys really enjoying the banking of this old school course, allowing lots of good racing around here. Not a lot of banking on this corner, though. That rise, I don't know about you, Sam, but that rise in that turn 9 can be really frustrating and tricky.
Well, it's a blind apex, and really there's multiple apexes you can use through it, because you're coming off of a medium straight and you're going onto a long straight, so it's not like you're really trying to maximize your speed on a particular one of them, but at the same time it's not really an overtaking zone, so you've got the worst of all worlds. You've got a blind turn with multiple apexes, but you can't do anything on the guy in front of you, so there are some interesting moments in that corner.
Undoubtedly, and there's not a lot of runoff in the exit too, so if you screw it up, you're going to be meeting the wall in a hurry. Much like this section, almost street course-like, with those powder blue barriers right next to the track. Tuan Tran reeling in the leader, Johan Hallberg. Coming to the outside like we've seen again. This time Potajek has a run, but once more, as you noted last time, he backs out of it. I think Potajek is thinking fuel now.
Perhaps, but look at this. Down into 3rd place goes Vincent Brem, and I think Vincent isn't too happy about Potajek kind of just laying back there. He was trying to look on him for 3rd position last lap. This time he's finally able to do something, and I'm curious to see if he's going to try and mix up with the leaders, because so far, even though we've seen a lot of battling up front, it has either been Tran or Hallberg who has had the lead.
Yeah, it's been quite a while since we've seen either Brame or Potajek try to slip up into P1. Now, Brame was taking a little bit of a peek on the outside into the chute on Hallberg, but just didn't have enough room to try and sneak one in there. Now, these top 4 are separated by less than a second right now. That's just how close they are as we ride on board with Potacek at the tail of the train in 4th. Get a good view. We talk about the popcorn position in this series a lot, and I think right now Potacek is very much sitting in it.
Trying to work out what Stephen Paul is doing in his pit stall. It's early on. I see a little bit of front wing damage on his machine, but he's not in a hurry to get out of there, that's for sure.
Trying to see if I can find anything that happened to him. He says he has 16 minutes of repairs, so he must have made some contact, maybe with the suspension, one of the corner of the cars knocked out of shape. It's hard to tell without really getting up close to the car. So our leaders once more through the 90 and heading back up the hill one more time. 56 minutes still left to go here in this 70-minute race. So we're only 15 minutes into this thing, still very early. These guys can usually do about a half hour of fuel.
What's Brem going to do? That's what I'm curious to know. Is he going to sit back in 3rd, or is he going to... He is going to challenge for a lead. Here he comes, down the inside.
Not content to sit in the back of the pack, he slips up inside of 2nd and 1st, but can't quite get past. Down into the carousel, they're going to fight side by side. Hallberg around the outside in the orange and black machine. Cannot hold on to it. Vincent Brame heads into the lead.
Yeah, and he was 4th 2 laps ago, moved up to 3rd last lap. He was not content to run there and just draft and save fuel. He wants to be at the front of his pack. Of course, it's in vain, because if things continue the way they have been, he'll fall the 2nd or 3rd next time by.
Now, judging by what we were hearing on the radio, it sounds like Dennis Neagle was involved in whatever happened to Stephen Paul. So we're still unsure of what exactly happened there. We'll have to get something post-race, or maybe if one of them is done, they could hop into the interview booth. We could give a quick talk while Stephen is getting his repairs. Something I'm sure the drivers never like to do, but we like getting some info mid-race from someone who's been down there in the war zone. In a war zone it is, up at the front still. Vincent Brame now up to the lead for the first time this race. He started in 4th, and he is not content to sit around, as Sam said. Hallberg is in 2nd, and that orange and black machine, black and tan car of Tuan Tran in 3rd, and then the green and black car of Potacek sitting in 4th, and actually falling off just a little bit, it looks like.
Yeah, I went back to take a look at Dennis Neagle's number 888 machine, and it is missing its front wing, so obviously he was involved in whatever happened. He's currently running towards the back of the pack, I believe, in 16th position right now. You can see there's no cars in front of him. He can't really draft anyone. His front tyres are going to be wearing down because of a lack of a front downforce, but he is still on track.
There you can see the number 888 machine. Daniel DeVos just behind him. Meanwhile, the lead looks to be changing once again. Are we going to see a 3 wide, though? Tuan Tran thinking about it. Now he sends it up the middle of both Hallberg and Brame. And Brame actually looks like he lifted on the straight there and sends himself back voluntarily to 3rd. Hallberg is going to come out on top, taking over the 1st position. And this has allowed Potacek in 4th to close back in what he had lost earlier on.
Well, we know what the strategy of that number 28 machine is. It is to conserve fuel and just hope that he's still with the lead pack when the pit stops occur. He's not too fussed about leading so far. However, he could be losing valuable lessons on getting the pass done and how good of a run you need to get out of turn 1 to make a move and make it stick. That could prove critical in the closing stages of this race.
Now, back in the 2nd train, Pierre's Cocky had a big off, but managed to stay out of the wall coming out of the chute, and that has given 5th back to Bastian Huseman. I thought that Cocky was going to lose it to Joachim Lundgren behind him, and in fact, Lundgren is looking very racy. Backs out of it into turn 9, though. As you said, not really a passing zone. Pierre's goes way wide through the corner. Is this going to compromise his exit enough? No. Still able to hold on just ahead of Lundgren.
All these drivers already about 6 seconds back of the lead pack. The leaders are crossing the start-finish line right now as these drivers are coming out of a final turn. Which doesn't seem like a lot, but considering these cars have a top speed of about 120, it does take them a little while.
Indeed, getting just up to about 113 down into the braking zone of turn 1. And here is the opportunity for Lundgren, as he is going to have the nice big hole in the air cut by Pierre's Kaki, coming up through 2 and then 3. Just ahead of them, Bastian Huseman pulled a little bit of a gap, but they're going to pull him in as well. Coming around the final right-hander up into the back stretch. Are we going to see 3 wide in this second pack?
Don't know about the second pack, but we're seeing it for the lead. Bram goes from 3rd to 1st again. I kind of like the idea of being in 2nd right now. You're going to stay 2nd every lap. It's just the drivers around you are going to switch.
And there we saw in the second pack that Pierre's Kaki did manage to overtake Huseman, and Lundgren elected to hold back, but it's not over yet as they come down to the chute. Huseman looking to the outside of Pierre's Kaki as he defends into this left-hander, and it looks like he's able to hold on to it. Now can he stay out of the grass? Unlike last time, yes, he takes it clean.
Of course, we're enjoying this while it lasts, because who knows how much these packs could get broken up when the pit stops begin, and all of a sudden we might not get to see this kind of entertainment.
Not only that, but if someone makes a mistake, if 2 cars make contact, that could break things up as well as everybody scatters to avoid an accident. We've seen that before. So back up at the front, as you mentioned, Vincent Brame is leading, Tuan Tran is in 2nd, Hallberg is in 3rd, and Potacek is once again just kind of holding back, staying in 4th place. I think he's the driver most likely to be able to save some fuel here, although Brame spent quite a bit of time in 4th as well.
He did, but this first run is going to extend for a few more laps, and the Brame's up there battling for the lead. He could burn fuel now. Obviously, this is my first time covering one of these absolute beginners Skippy races, so I'm not sure how much fuel we're talking about here. Joe, are we talking about 1-2 laps?
Well, it's difficult to tell. We've seen drivers actually make races on a single stop by using this conserve method. But these guys don't really, this top group, nobody's really been clearly hanging back the entire time to try and conserve. And we've seen in the past as the lead, once again, is going to go 3 wide. Hallberg on the outside, Tran in the middle, Brame down on the inside. We've seen that you need to really be conserving the entire way. It's very difficult to stretch it. And sometimes it can pay off, but it's just so tough that you've got to be committed, and I haven't seen any of these guys really commit to that strategy yet.
That was interesting there. Hallberg, and actually there's a battle for 2nd on right there, but no, it breaks up. Hallberg was in 3rd at the start of this lap, and we've seen the drivers being able to use a slingshot pass to go from 3rd to 1st quite easily, but it was very difficult for that number 87 machine that time because he made his move too early. He made his move at the exact time that the driver in 2nd made his move, and so by the time they got to the turn, he was still battling with the guy that was in 2nd. So the lesson there, I think, needs to be, if you're in 3rd, you need to wait for the first 2 guys to get side by side, and then you make your move so that you have more of a run than the guy in 2nd, if that makes sense by the time you get to the corner.
Bigger hole cut in the air, so more draft, I suppose. It makes sense to me. Now, we are on lap 10 here, and as you said, we still got a ways to go. Guys could actually come in for a stop here as we are into the first pit window. I don't really foresee any of these guys trying to stop now, though. But I have a feeling if one of them comes in, if they are in front of anybody else, if it's not the last car in the train, everybody behind is going to come in with them.
Hallberg has got a bit of a jump over the battle for 2nd now, because they almost ran side by side down into the toe of a boot, and that has cost Tran and Brem a bit of time. I don't think they have completely lost the draft, and they might be able to make a move into the carousel, but definitely the biggest gap we've seen between P1 and P2 so far this race. Yeah,
with it being only about a half a second after that first corner, it was It's no question that they were going to pull him in, and you can see it now as we look back from Tran as he pulls over to try and overtake Hallberg. Does it cleanly and actually chops off Brame a little bit, trying to cover him off. Brame tries to pull out. Oh, almost makes contact with Hallberg. Coming into the carousel, Hallberg has to go wide. They're going to go side by side through the right-hander. It switches back into the chute. Hallberg's going to have the inside in the corner. Should be a done deal. Brame trying to hold on to it, but as he drifts a little bit wide, he slots back into third.
Well, if anyone's been trying to save fuel in this pack, it is Protejek, because he is the only driver he's been running fourth for about the last 10 laps now. He is the only driver in this pack who has not led a lap during this race. But my concern, Joe, had those two drivers made contact for second and spun around, Protejek would have had to slow down to have avoided the collision, and Tran would have been able to run away with the lead there. I don't know if this strategy of handing back and forth is going to be worth it. It's going to be very risky, because if the drivers in front of you do get involved in a collision, I don't think he's going to have a lot of reaction time.
And Brame completely missed the apex of 9 and has dropped back. Now, he's about a second back. I think if he can stay within that second, he can still hold that draft. But this is also done exactly what you're just talking about. Protejek has been held up, and we got a car in. That's Tran. So Tran is the first to blink, and nobody follows him, interestingly. Now, Brame, as I said, has about a second up to Hallberg. This is going to be interesting, Sam. Is he close enough to reel him in with the draft?
Well, we'll find out. They're working their way up the hill right now. I think he might be. He won't be close enough to make a move. Well, mind you, I almost said that last lap and they proved me wrong.
It looks like he's gaining. It went from 8 tenths to 7 tenths. That's just a little bit. Now, is Protejek going to try and fight him? Protejek could try and slingshot and get a little bit closer. It's now up to half a second, so they are very much gaining, and it looks like they are actually back into this fight. Brame lets his teammate go through the inside.
I'm going to say, as long as they don't battle each other too hard for second, if they did that, that would allow Hallberg to run away, but Hallberg did not get through the carousel very well. He had to use a runoff area on the exit of a turn, and he slided a little bit through the chute right here, and that has allowed this battle for second to close back in on him.
We continue to watch our top three, but Tuan Tran is back out on track. He is in 14th position. He's all by himself critically. Now, this usually is a good thing in road racing. You want time to hot lap, but with nobody to draft with, he could theoretically be lapping slower than our leaders and actually be losing out by pitting by his own.
I was just taking a glance at the second pack we've got up there. There's 5 cars in that. That's going to get wild at some point during this race, I think. But now the advantage, or what our former leader Tuan Tran has got to be hoping for here, is that these drivers come into the pit this lap. Maybe they are only limited to about 12 laps on fuel, considering how much they're on the gas pedal around here. And if that's the case, then you won't be missing out on all that drafting that he could be doing. Let's see, because Hallberg's coming through the final turn right now, but no, the leaders stay out.
1, 2, 3. Hallberg, Protejek, and Brame is our podium at the moment. And as you said, have elected not to come in. Now, our second pack looks like it's pretty much the same. Lundgren's been leading that one. He's managed to get by Cocky, and in fact, those guys have got a bit of gap to David Burns. I thought I saw a car disappear from my screen, though. We're hearing that Seidel has disappeared from that group. And he has not come back yet. So, bad news for Seidel with internet problems, potentially taking him out of this race. We're looking back up at the lead, and Protejek has overtaken that P1.
Yeah, we just saw 2 firsts. Last time around, Hallberg led the lap 12, and he also led the lap 11. That is the first time this race that someone has led 2 consecutive laps, and also if Protejek is able to keep the lead, it will be the first time that Protejek will have led a lap this race.
So the plot thickens as we see them hit the bottom of the hill, down where the car compresses into the toe of the boot. working their way around that banking, trying to carry that momentum up the hill. Podizek, Hallberg, Brem is your order as you see them on screen.
Confirmation, Marcel Seidel lost the connection.
So we saw a couple other drivers have a bad end of the season through an accident, and Seidel has a bad end through just sheer dumb luck. And not the way I'm sure he wants to end this thing out. He could still come back and try and reconnect and finish this race out, but it'd be a little bit gutted to try and finish this one, especially when you need the draft and you need a pack to be working with to have a decent finish. Our leaders are coming back around to the start-finish line. Here's the pit entry. Nobody comes in one more time. Now, let's look at the laps, actually. Let's see what these guys are doing in comparison. I'm seeing Podizek, 207.8, 207.0, 207.7. Now, what is Tran doing on his own? He has yet to come around for his lap. Currently seeing him scored in 13th. Got one more corner to go, then we can get an idea of what kind of laps he can do on his own. And once again, you can see there is nobody around. He's got a 4-second gap up to Stefan Schmidt. 207.8, so he's comparable to our leaders.
Yeah, well, the only place the leaders are really gaining on him is when they make their slipstream moves down the backstretch, because they're going at a higher average speed as a group. At the rest of the circuit, there's no change for the lead, so they're running as fast as what a single car would be doing. And you can see we have had the lead change again. Vincent Brame has gone back up to the top spot. But the biggest concern that Tran has here is using the fact that it's a 70-minute race and it's about 2 minutes around here. It's going to be about 30 to 35 laps. We know that Tran has a very bad exit from Brem here. He might actually lose the lead down to the hill, and it looks like that's going to happen. But if these drivers can go another 2 or 3 laps, I think they might be able to make it to the end on just this one stop.
That could be what they're trying to do. As we said in the past, if anybody has to commit to that one-stopper strategy, they're going to have to really work towards it the whole way through. And these guys have just been swapping back and forth. It seems like they've been pretty flat out. I'd be shocked if any of them is able to make it. Maybe fuel is not as much a concern around here, and maybe Tuan Tran has missed a trick.
They'll stay out this time around. This is a completion of lap 14. Hallberg leads, and the reason Hallberg leads, as we mentioned, is because Brame made a mistake, and that's really the second major mistake we've seen him make in this lead pack, whereas everyone else has really been able to keep it in the straight line for the most part. Hallberg definitely seems to be the fastest car of this pack. He's able to break away, but he hasn't been able to break away enough to break the draft. But as soon as he is able to do that, if he's able to do that, that could be crucial if Hallberg is going to win this race today.
Yeah, speaking of the handling of the cars, I'm trying to take a glance at the conditions. 85 degrees out, track is 97. Compared to what they're used to, they tend to have hot conditions in this series this season. This is a relatively cool track, so the car should be handling pretty well. And we haven't seen a whole lot of slipping and sliding around from most drivers. So that seems to jive with what the data is telling us. Meanwhile, as we watch Hallberg lead the way down in the chute, it's Brame in second, Podizek in third.
Yeah, and then rounding out the top 5 last time by was Joachim Lugren, and Piers Cocky was rounding out the top 5.
I was going to say, I was just taking a look at those two, and those guys have broken away. It's just the 5-car train that we have seen has now become 2.
And that's why you've seen the drivers in the lead pack fighting so hard for the lead, just in case the same thing could happen up there.
Sorry to cut you off there, Sam. It's just a significant development that we haven't really focused on ever since Seidel dropped out. That gap between themselves and Huseman and Burns has continued to grow.
Yeah, and as you say, Heusman and Burns rounding out 6th and 7th there. Eric Lukell in 8th, and Michael Engstrom and Lorne Murray round out the top 10. We still have 16 cars on the lead lap. We've had 3 cars involved in an incident and 1 car lose a connection. And meanwhile, the drivers in 2nd and 3rd have came into the pits. Vincent Brem and Wojciech Potaszek, but Johan Holberg stays out.
Just like I called earlier, we're seeing our 2 teammates come in together, definitely coordinating. Hallberg continues on. Now we have to keep an eye on Tuan Tran. He has managed to get past the car of Stefan Schmidt, who is chasing down, and work himself up into 11th. He's coming up to the pit entry now. Potaszek still stationary, same thing with Brame.
Now obviously this is going to be a key lap or 2 for Holberg here to try and put on laps as fast as he can so that when he pits he can try and be ahead of his pack.
And here from the chopper view we see Potaszek coming out, and he is ahead of Tuan Tran and well ahead of his teammate Brame. But I think these 3 are close enough that the draft should keep them all together, although Brame is dropping back just a little bit. He's got about 1.5 seconds up to them. He might actually be too far back to be up with these guys.
Maybe he took a little bit more fuel.
Could be the case. iRacing does map a little bit of randomness into the pit stops. So that could have caught him out as well. Tran, as you saw, moved himself up. And that's actually into the top 5 now, as a number of cars seem to have pitted as well. And critically, that was at about minute 37, or with 37 minutes to go, I should say, for our 2-2 stupid dog drivers. So they are not going to be able to affect a single stop strategy, I'm pretty sure. Tran going a little bit wide, off into the dirt, kicking it up the dust. But it looks like Potaszek was not able to get a good enough run to really try and effect a pass into the heel of the boot.
And Holberg does have a legal fuel tank. He is coming into the pits this time around.
Now it's going to be extremely tight on him. He's still got just over 35 minutes to go.
Holberg's not the only driver who stayed out. Cocky is also coming in. Heusman is coming in. Lukell is coming in. They are the 4 drivers ahead of the little pack we've been watching. So all of the leaders at least will have made a pit stop right now.
And this is going to be critical. Where is Hallberg going to come out? Tuan Tran comes out of the final corner, followed by Potaszek. Hallberg still stationary. And I think, he's losing out. He is going to lose out by a significant margin as Tuan Tran is well past. So is Vincent Brame. However, 34 minutes and 50 seconds to go. It's going to be extremely tight for Hallberg. He could fuel save, though. He does have Vincent Brame just ahead of him. If these 2 work together, if he just holds behind him, and we're going to tell if he's going to try that strategy. No, he's not. Hallberg is going to try and work his way past, so he is not interested in trying to fuel save here.
Well, they could just be trying to slingshot each other, and then they'll be able to save fuel once they've caught that battle for the lead. Oh, this is not a good idea for these 2 leaders right now. Potaszek got up alongside Tuan Tran, and Tran did not back off. They are losing time while they are battling side by side like this.
Now, there's no championship at stake for Tran, so for him at this point, he can just have fun and not even worry about strategy. As he looks to the outside, Potaszek is going to defend to the inside, down to the toe of the boot. This is for the lead. And Potaszek comes out in front.
Meanwhile, we've got a huge pack of cars racing for 6th place right now. David Burns leads it, and he is being followed by Liam Quinn, who started at the back of the field because Liam only joined the session during the closing minutes of qualifying, but he's up there racing in 7th right now. Although I don't know, have these drivers pit yet?
Yes, everybody,
pit, so
yeah. And Quinn looking to the inside of Burns, down into the heel of the boot. He's going to have that desired apex, but as it switches back, coming into 9, They're still going to be fighting. Burns looking to the inside, and he's going to have it. As another car goes way wide. Is that Engstrom, I think? And he loses 2 positions as our 2 top drivers in this pack, Burns and Quinn, go side by side. Quinn comes out on top as they hit Indianapolis.
We've got the drive in the pits with damage to his front wing. Richard Colomb, don't exactly know what happened to the number 56 machine, but it's in its pit stall with damage. So an unfortunate end to the race there for the number 56 car.
Quinn to the inside, or excuse me, Burns to the inside of Quinn down into the 90. We talked earlier in the race how you don't really want to make the pass down in the first corner. Both of them getting a compromised exit, and they're still going to go side by side as they head through the S's.
Well, that's going to bunch everyone up behind them.
And it certainly does. Neagle closing into the back. Pierre's cocky in this group. And Engstrom at the tail of them. Are we going to see 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide? Cocky tries to split the top 2. He's got the momentum, the best momentum out of the group. And Cocky goes up to the front of them in 6th. That is going to leave the order to Quinn behind him in 7th. 8th, David Burns. 9th, Neagle. And Engstrom now at the tail of the pack. Still side by side for 7th, though, as Burns looks to the outside of Quinn. But he gives it up down into the chute.
Meanwhile, up front, Juan Tren led the last time around, but Protégé has retaken the lead from him, as expected, really.
Our top 2 just have been swapping back and forth, as we've seen for most of the race. Now, Hallberg, has he been closing, actually? It's about 1.8 behind.
Well, we'll get a definite answer at the line this time, by the last lap time obviously was hurt by the fact that he was in the pit stall, but we will get a definite answer at the line. Oh, and that will definitely help. Juan Tren got very loose in the final turn, and that's not going to be enough to give Hallberg a slipstream, but he can taste blood at the very least.
So last lap by for Hallberg was a 2:08 flat. Juan Tran was a 2:08.2 for Podizek. It was a 2:07.6. So Podizek was able to get away, but Tran lost a little bit of time.
And that could have been from that moment in the final turn, but Tran has ate it back up and retakes the lead back down the backstretch. Now, of course, the problem with making the move for the lead where Tran just did it on the final lap would be that now Protégé actually has the slipstream again, and he can try and retake the lead before the carousel. I don't think he's going to push the issue. He's not going to push the issue this time, but on the final lap, they will be racing through that carousel side by side if that happens.
And he tries to get himself a good exit, but once again, he knows what the bigger picture is, and he backs out of it. We're getting some information that Hallberg had the longest stop at about 23 seconds. Podizek had the fastest with about 17. That's a significant difference, 6 seconds between those two. And yet there's still only about 2 seconds difference on track.
You've got 4 completely different stories here. You've got Juan Tren, who pit so early that he's going to have to pit again. Protégé, meanwhile, was the one saving fuel during the first stint of a race, so that's why he was able to get away with not having to take out much fuel during his stop, because he hadn't burnt as much fuel as the other drivers. You got Hallberg, who took a long pit stop and pitted later than anyone else, so if anyone can make it to the end, it's likely him, even if we get an additional lap or 2, depending on where the time clock falls. Whereas Vincent Brem has really had the most mediocre race of all of them, running in the middle of the pack the whole time and pitting at the same time pretty much as all of them.
And I don't think Hallberg is easing up on the fuel here. He is pushing the limits of this track, nearly slipping up coming out of turn 9. Able to hold it together, though. That gap between himself and Podizek has gone down once again by another 0.2. 1.6 now between himself and P2. So they are reeling in this front pack. It is going to be a 4-car battle, I believe, for our lead sooner rather than later.
Did you say Tren and Podizek were teammates?
No, Podizek and Brame are teammates. Tran is teammates with, actually I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, because I was wondering here, if Tran has to pit again, he might not be his teammate, but Tran is really Potejek's best friend right now. Because if Tran does have to pit again, and none of the other three do, Potejek is has a second-and-a-half lead on essentially what's the rest of the field right now. So he's got to try and work with Tran as much as possible to keep himself in front of the cars that could be battling for him for the win at the end.
And we're fairly certain that both Potezek and Tran do have to pit again, because they pitted with, both of them pitted with well more than half the race yet to go.
No, Potezek didn't. He pitted on lap 15.
There was still about over 36 minutes left on the clock, though. If he was at the end of his tank, then we can assume that he can't make it to the end. And the farthest we've seen anybody go was Hallberg, which still wasn't exactly at halfway. He made it about 34 and a half minutes did Hallberg. So if we can assume that that's as far as he can go when he came out, it's going to be very, very tight. And that's not taking into account that this is a timed race, and they could get an extra lap depending on the timing of that. So we've seen this before, and I know you're news here, Sam, but with these long races, these 70-minute races, it really comes down to this fuel strategy and a huge question mark of who can make it and which is the faster way, one stop or two stops.
Let's go back to this battle for 6, because they're right on top of each other.
Indeed, it's Liam Quinn leading the way of those guys right now. David Burns close behind him, then it's Pierre Kaki, and we've got a car coming in for their second stop. It's Quinn. That's going to leave Pierre Kaki to overtake David Burns for that 6th place. Down into turn 1. Going to have a bad exit, though, as he goes a little bit wide. He cuts across the track to try and come back on.
That's an interesting strategy by Quinn. Obviously, he was thinking one of two things there. He's thinking either A, this pack is holding me up too much, let's get out of it, or B, this pack might be about to wreck, let's get out of it. So he made his pit stop, and now we'll be able to hot lap and make it to the end without risking being involved in any kind of incident here.
Eric Lukal has the popcorn position between the first two in this pack, Pierre Kaki and David Burns. He, in fact, lifted on the straight behind them, knowing that there's not much he can do except try and split them in a 3-wide situation, and Kaki is the one that comes out on top ahead of Burns. Still 25 minutes left to go in the race. Starting to come down to the final stages here, and as we saw already, drivers thinking about that last pit stop. How do they want to play it?
Well, he has said Graham had been making the most mistakes out of any of the drivers in the top 4, but not too far behind, I think, might be Tuan Tran in 2nd place. He had a big bobble coming out of the toe of a boot last time around, and that caused him and Potejek to both slow up. Potejek was kind of too close to really try and make a move on him. He kind of had to slow down so that he didn't run into him, and as a result, the two leaders that time they still ran solid lap times though, so they haven't lost out too much time, if any time at all really, to the battle for 3rd, as they come around to lap Dennis Neagle, who was involved in an incident early in the race. Now, Neagle could be huge for this battle for 3rd. They're going to be able to get his draft down the backstretch here.
Yep, that big hole in the air was cut for Vincent Brame, and that keeps him, I think, a little bit more ahead of Johan Hallberg, who is closing up. Is he going to look to the inside? Yes, he is. He's going to want the position anyways, and it looks like Brame is going to let him by.
Did something just happen to Michael Engstrom? Was he one of the drivers battling in that 2nd pack?
He's coming out of the pits now. I don't see any damage on his car, so it looks like he's taking a scheduled 2nd stop. And that slotted him down into 12th position. And our lead is changing once more.
Potacek took it down the backstretch. Tron takes it back into the heel of a boot. These two drivers really can't afford to battle each other too much, if we are assuming that they both have to pit again.
Hasn't hurt them too badly, it seems, because they've now increased what was a 1.5 second lead over third place to 2 seconds. They've been keeping them at bay pretty steadily. So
obviously,
22 minutes now left on the clock. We're going to see just about 10 more laps.
Yeah, and obviously any of the drivers, if they were to pit now, could easily make it to the end. But they're probably going to want to wait for the closing laps for confirmation from their fuel gauges saying, hey, you can't make it. It will be easier to tell at the end of the race how short they're going to be.
The closer you get to that clock ticking down, the more precise that you can make it, but it also leaves you less time to try and overcome any deficit that you have. We're hearing that Burns has headed in from that second group.
So we see Potacek retaking the lead from Trent.
Brame also making a move down to the inside. In fact, they're still side by side through the carousel, but now Hallberg backs out of it, slots himself down into 4th.
Let's give a shout out to Joachim Lugren, because remember we saw right before the pit stops, I believe, him and another driver break away from that second pack, and really the second pack reformed, but he was in front of it. He's been running 5th all on his lonesome for this second half of the race.
Oh, he definitely pulled a trick on us there. Top 5 for Lundgren. We've seen him almost battling for those sorts of positions in other races, just hasn't been able to get up to the lead pack to really battle for wins. Still, Lundgren running a great race all by his lonesome. We'll see if this strategy pays off for him. He's got about 16 seconds up to 4th place, so he's not really in a position to try and run those guys down. Just blinding pace from our top drivers in the field.
Yeah, I don't think it's been much of a strategy from him rather than luck. He was able to break away from the pack when they reformed after the pit stops. He was in front of the pack. And really, his hope is that these two little packs up front here get involved in some kind of incident. He might not be looking at the win if that happens, but maybe a podium.
Here we've got a good battle going on for 9th, though. Just a little bit back. 9th is Lauren Murray. Got a battle with 3 cars, Stefan Schmidt, Mikael Engstrom, and David Burns. We know that Burns has already made his stop. I think we saw Engstrom come in for his second stop as well, did we? So Engstrom has also made his second stop. Now what about Schmidt? I'm seeing my pit stop, my timing and scoring is definitely off because I see Stefan Schmidt with no pit stops, so I can't rely on that. We believe that Schmidt has only made 1 stop, so he should not essentially be in this battle. He needs to come in for his second go.
Now, what are spotters like in these series, Joe? Do they have a lot of... are there drivers out here with spotters keeping an eye on what the others are doing? Because there might be a lot of drivers out here that's not the case, not knowing what the strategy is of the cars around them.
I don't believe they have a lot of guys with spotters. However, they have plenty of people with teammates, and they tend to be in communication with each other, so they could be getting information that way. As long as they've got a team speak up and they are talking to each other, feeding each other information, if they are apart on track, letting each other know what is going on with the cars around them. Meanwhile, looking at Pierre Skaki, who has been having a nice little battle with Bastian Huseman for most of this race. Eric Lukol also there.
The leaders are coming around to complete lap 24 right now, with Tren leading them. Now, Tren pitted on lap 11, but we saw cars go, well, as long as 16 laps on fuel, so we should see Tren forced to pit within the next 3 or 4 laps.
Undoubtedly. As we said, about the max that we've seen them go is just under 35 minutes.
We've got Bastian Huisman in the pits in the number 161 car, and he'd been running in that second pack, hadn't he? So I'm guessing he was involved in some kind of incident, because he was in the pits before the leaders went by.
Yeah, actually, I thought I heard an incident. Oh, he blew his engine coming into the heel of the boot. He must have downshifted too quickly, and it went up in a puff of smoke. So that is the day done for Bastian Huisman. Not enough time to get a new engine into that car for this race.
Honestly, this has been a relatively clean race, which has been the problem for the drivers that have been involved in incidents. Hasn't really been a huge reason for them to get back out there on the track, because you're not going to pick up a lot of positions.
Attrition has not been playing as much as I thought it would, especially with the barriers being so close to the track. As you said, drivers have just been, I'm knocking on wood here for the commentator's curse, but they've been driving very, very well out there. Nobody's really been making major mistakes besides that first large incident we saw where cars taking a tumble up through the S's on lap 1.
Yeah, Stephen Paul was also involved in an incident that was off camera, and then we had one driver blow their engine, one driver lose their connection, and I believe there was also another driver involved in the crash that didn't quite get on camera, but that was a single car incident. That being said, I have a feeling all the action isn't over yet, considering that the intensity should pick up in the final 10 minutes, especially if it's packed for the front reforms.
And I'm afraid that unless something major happens, it's not going to reform, because it's now up to about 2.5 seconds between second and third. The top two of Tran and Podizek have been slowly increasing the gap. Now, Tran has won the last 3 races on the trot, and Podizek, I don't believe, has won a race this season. I could be wrong on that. Trying to think back. I think Podizek may have won. Did he win at Silverstone? I'm trying to see if I can dig that one up. Right now, though, he's got a great chance at a win here today. They should have one more stop, though, we believe. Still 15 minutes left to go, and it's going to be coming very soon. Hallberg, as we said, the driver sitting in the best position to try to make this a one-stopper. And he is in third right now, just ahead of Brame, who we are pretty sure has to make another stop as well.
Well, Hallberg has only been in half a season, so he's not really racing for any points, so I say go for it.
Indeed, he is yet to take his first win in this series, and he's been oh so close. He showed up in his very first race, surprised everybody at Mosport with an incredible amount of speed. That 5th place really doesn't tell the whole story, with him just simply making a strategic error, which I don't think he's been making ever since. He's learned the game very quickly. The question is, can he finally break that duck, get himself into the top spot? I have no doubts that if Hallberg comes back for the Neagle Cup next season, he is going to be in it for the championship, for all the marbles.
We got the battle for 8th going on, but I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Tren this time by, because it has been 15 laps now since he made his last stop, so I have a feeling we might see that machine coming into the pits this time around.
Yeah, we see the battle for 8th on screen. Mikael Engstrom trying to chase down David Burns. Just behind them, Lauren Murray keeping them in check, sitting in the popcorn position. And
Tren! Oh, wow! I think Podizek tried to come in the pits too and missed it.
We're going to look at the replay.
What? Did Podizek not know that Tren was on the inside of him, and he tried to come in the pit road and then realized, oh, I can't?
It could be the case. Or maybe he was hoping to maybe follow him in and realized too late. We're going to watch it from above here.
Well, it was It's such a weird strategy by Tran in the first place. He had been taking 2 different lines through the 2 previous turns like he was battling for the lead, which doesn't make sense.
I think Potozek was trying to react and reacted too late to try and make it into the pits. Now, that's going to cost him a lot of time because he slowed quite a bit. And in fact, yeah, now he's in third. I don't know if you just mentioned that. I was trying to look up some information as you were talking there. So Harburg now into the lead.
Well, obviously, Tren hasn't lost any time whatsoever doing this. He has re-emerged in 5th position. He was able to hit his markers and everything, okay, provided he wasn't speeding in the pits. I don't think he has been, because he's been very chatty over the in-race text chat, and he hasn't mentioned anything about, oh no, I got a penalty or any kind of thing. So, he should still be good to go. And Potajet could be cool as well if he's able to get with this draft of Hallberg and Brain. But let's not forget that these drivers were 2 seconds back of Trem before the number 21 machine came in last time by.
Indeed, and they pitted a few laps later, so they're able to go a little bit longer here, maybe another lap or two. But he is with his teammate now, so he can work with his teammate on this pit stop. Not that he needs it too much here at the end of the race. Potozek taking a lot of curb in that final corner. And he stays out once more, so he must be following the same strategy as his teammate then. Simply waiting to pit when he does.
Yeah, well, he was going to try the strategy, as you said, of pitting when Tren did, so they had the slipstream, but there must have been no communication through them. But Tren, from the angle I was watching it at, Tren looked like he was trying to make a move for the lead on Potajek through turn 10, which didn't make sense considering the fact that we were pretty sure that Tren was coming into the pits that time around. So I don't know if he was just trying to confuse Potajek there.
There you can see Tran. He comes back in 5th place, positioned very well. Just ahead of him is Lundgren. A few seconds up the road, he has yet to make his second stop. And then we've got Potozek and Brain, who we're pretty sure have to make a stop, and then Hallberg, who we are unsure on if he can make it all the way to the checkered flag on that single pit stop he's done.
Well, this isn't doing them any favours leading this pack. I have a feeling he'd be getting most out of fuel if he let these 2 cars in front of it, behind him, go in front and draft them. So maybe he is thinking about a second stop.
Thing is he doesn't want to lose too much time in case he can't make it to the end. So he probably won't want to lift, because if the guys behind him is lift as well, it's just a ridiculous case of no after you. So he can't really do much unless Vincent Brame actually makes the move to go by, and Brame seems very content to sit behind him. We ride on board, well, we were riding on board with Hallberg, excuse me, looking back at Brame.
Well, that's an interesting strategy, Joe. These drivers have about 30 seconds over Tuan Chen. If you just roll out the gas, if you're Potajek in 3rd, if you give up on catching these top 2, do you just roll out the gas for the second half of a race, knowing you've got 30 seconds over Trent?
He's only got 5 laps to do it, though, and I don't think he can save an entire few laps in that little time for fuel. It's a case of too little too late, I think.
All of a sudden, we've got a lot of lap traffic come out of nowhere. Daniel DeVos has just gone a lap down. We've also got Dennis Neagle, who granted was in an incident early on the lap down. I'm not sure what DeVos' story is.
Now, I'm not entirely sure, but it could be the fact that we're seeing a lot of different strategies out there, and that's what's causing guys to be tripping over each other a little bit more as they get mixed up. There we see DeVos in 13th, part of the Damage Beyond Recognition 2 team.
Yeah, well, we've well established our top 5 right now. The battle for 6th continues between Eric Lukel and Piers Cocky. And then they've got a bit of a gap over a three-way battle for eighth between David Burns, Michael Engstrom, and Lorne Murray.
Those guys heading their way up the hill at the moment. They're quite a ways back from Pierre's Cocky, it looks like, who is all the way down into the chute while they just come onto the backstretch. There you see Burns looking to the inside of Engstrom, but slots back into line. Still another 7.5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, and the leaders are coming around to complete lap 29. That is 3 laps short of lap 32. Johan Holberg ran 16. Oh, but Holberg's coming in this time by. And
this is... I did not expect this at all. I thought that Holberg would be going much farther, but I guess he is deciding now that he's not going to be able to make it. Now, where is he going to come out in comparison with Tran?
You know, another thing that Holberg may have been considering? I think he has unquestionably been faster than Brame and Protejek, and he thought, well, I'm helping these two drivers out too much. Let me pit so that these two drivers can burn up air fuel on their own.
And Holberg is heading out now. Tuan Tran coming down to the braking of turn 1. It's going to be close, but I think the draft is far enough apart. About 3.5 seconds. Now, unless Tran is quicker than Holberg, this could be Holberg's race. Although we still need to see what Vincent Brame and Wojciech Podajek are going to do.
Well, those two both pitted on lap 15 first time around. It's lap 30 this time, but we know that these cars can go 16 laps on fuel. And I think these two drivers have been saving fuel because they were running behind Holberg without making a move for the lead over the past few laps.
And that's an excellent point. Now, we see Vincent Brame actually look to the inside coming up the hill on his teammate. The question is, do these guys have a set order of if you're leading at a certain point that they're not going to try and battle each other, or is it gloves are off and whoever takes the P1 at checkers gets the win?
They're gonna, provided there aren't any pit stops, they would cross the line here with 5 minutes to go, which would mean they would have 3 laps left, which means they would have to do an 18-lap final. Yeah, they're gonna have to pit.
And here they come.
They're doing it this time, yep. Oh, don't hit each other!
Oh! Contact between teammates. Vincent Brame gets into the back of Vincent Brame, who comes on the radio. And we're going to watch on board from Vincent. I worried about that. I saw him coming in very, very hot. Ooh, just the slightest of contact, and I don't think, yeah, his front wing looks fine. So I think they both got away lucky there.
All right, they're leaving their pit stalls now, but Holberg is already far ahead. But what about Tran? Because, of course, the question you've got the beginner asking now is, has Holberg short-fueled it too much?
He was able to go longer than everybody else, so he should have been able to maybe need a slightly less fuel than these guys. And we've got Vincent Brame getting on the radio, actually, to Tuan Tran after what was a little bit of a tight move up through the S's. But now it's a battle for the final podium spot between Tran, Podajek, and Brame.
Lugren just picked from 5th and pulled back to 7th. That means the battle for 5th is now on between Eric Lukel and Pierre's Cocky, although those two might have to pit again.
And the gap between Holberg and second place, which is going to be switching constantly, is about 4.5 seconds.
Yeah, there goes Tran up into second. 2 teammates behind him.
And these guys aren't waiting for the slipstream to try and get past each other anymore. That was in the chute. We saw Brame and Podajek side by side until they got single file now into the toe of the boot. Here comes Brame, being followed by Podajek. Podajek looks to the inside with a good run coming up the hill, and he backs out of it.
So his teammate doesn't want to race him too hard. The question is, I mean, whether or not Hallberg can make it to the end of a race on fuel, these three drivers have got to be battling, knowing that this is their only battle left, and Tron has a big slide.
And holds on to it, causes Brame to have to check up. Podizek looks to the inside, lifts before they get to Indianapolis. Good car control from Tuan Tran. You cannot say that these guys are not pushing at this point.
Yeah, 2 laps left to go. We've got 2 minutes 40 left on the clock. It takes 2 minutes to get around here. Hallberg leads them.
Now it's 5 seconds between himself and second place.
The drivers in 5th and 6th I don't think are going fast at all. Eric Luckel and Piers Cocky. I'm wondering, I think those two are trying to work with each other to make it to the end on one stop.
Have they only taken one stop, actually? Did we miss that? Wow. Interesting. I would have thought that they'd actually been a little bit closer to Brame and Podizek. Fortunately, this is a little farther down than we're used to seeing with Cocky. He's usually up in the top 5. Now, he could take that away from Luckel, but it's a 3-wide battle for P2 with Tran in the middle of the 2 stupid dog teammates. On the inside, Brame just has his nose ahead of Podizek. And it looks like he's going to slip into P2, but Tran is not done with Podizek. Looks to the outside, coming around the chute. Drifts a little bit wide. There's no grip there, and he falls back.
Usually if I call a driver stupid dog, I don't get away with it.
I'm not sure, do you even remember that cartoon? Because I'm pretty sure it's in reference to a cartoon.
No.
I guess I'm the only one.
We'll talk during the post-race break. I'm sure it's a technical glitch on my end, but I'm seeing a white flag. I'm sure that's not the case because we still have a minute left of racing on the clock.
Yeah, I see Hallberg now, and he's coming around Indianapolis. We'll find out this time. I'm seeing a green flag on my timing and scoring. I think it should be a glitch.
Yeah, well, let's call Hallberg taking the final lap, just in case. Here he goes, at the final turn. Hallberg will take a white flag.
And I'm actually still not seeing the white flag. Still got 30 seconds on the clock, so it probably is not going to pop up until that timer completely ticks down to 0. And he is definitely continuing on, so this should be the final lap. Meanwhile, we've jumped back for that battle for second position, which is not over by any stretch of the imagination. There we ride on board with Tran, following Brame, who follows Podizek, coming up the hill. This is the popular passing zone.
Especially if you're the third driver.
Tran's going to have to go to the outside. I think his momentum got ruined just a little bit. He might have had to check up. They're closing in on Podizek. Tries to hold the inside, but his teammate squeaks in there. Tran on the outside. He has a nose ahead, but he's going to be on the farthest outside of the line. Not the ideal place to be. They get very close, almost touching. He goes wide to try and hold on to it. Vincent Brame is going to sneak ahead into second position. Tran has the inside of Podizek down into the chute.
Oh, and Brame loses it!
Slides, they both move to try and avoid him. Just a little bit of contact between himself and Tran, but it's Podizek who comes out ahead in second place. And miraculously, Brame manages not to hit anything. Except for Tran, of course, just the slightest of touches. That was beautiful driving by all drivers to keep out of each other.
Yeah, well, what happened there in the carousel was Train didn't realise how close he would be on exit. That's why he had to check out of it and lost a lot of time, but ended up paying off in the long end. But our leader, Hallberg, is about to come through the final couple of corners.
And I think Tran has ran out of opportunities. I don't think he's going to be able to sneak by Podizek for that second position. Doesn't matter much for him because the championship is sealed. Meanwhile, out of the final corner, Johan Hallberg, we wondered if he could get a win in this season, and he is going to do it, taking the checkered flags in the final round at Watkins Glen and the Absolute Beginners Formula Neagle Cup. Behind him, Wojciech Podezek is going to take P2. Tuan Tran rounds out the podium, only missing the podium once this whole season. Incredible job. Vincent Brame comes home in 4th.
Neagle is absolutely coasting it through the final turn, but it looks like he'll be able to hold on to 5th. Pierre's Cocky has run out of fuel, although Neagle, I don't know if he does have enough fuel to make it to the line in 5th. Yes, he does, but he runs out right at the end. Joachim Lugren moved up into 6th because Pierre's Cocky ran out of fuel on the final lap. He is trying to limp it home in 7th, but he's not going to make it. Engstrom and Burns go by him. How far back is Cocky going to fall? He started the final lap in 6th. He is already down to 9th, but the driver behind him, Liam Quinn, has run out of fuel in 10th.
A common sight we've seen here in these 70-minute races. As Quinn coasts across, Stefan Schmidt and Lauren Murray are going to be our last 2. They're very close together, actually. Schmidt takes a little bit of a look on the inside in Indianapolis, but there's no passing there. Lauren Murray defends the inside coming into the final corner, and he is going to solidly have it. So our last 2 drivers on the lead lap, finishing in 11th and 12th. That's going to take us to break. We'll come back with the last interviews of this season as well as the unofficial results. Stick around because we've got upcoming races on the screen during the break. Welcome back to Watkins Glen. We just watched the final round of this season of the Absolute Beginners Neagle Cup. Johan Hallberg finally got his first win in the Absolute Beginners series. Wojciech Podajek came home in second with a great battle between himself, Tuan Tran, who came in third, and Vincent Brame, who was just off the podium after a late race mistake, finished him in fourth. Eric Lukal made it to the line on fumes in fifth, followed by Joachim Lundgren in sixth. Mikael Engstrom followed home in seventh, followed by David Burns in eighth, and Pierre Skaki, who coasted to the line in ninth. And then Liam Quinn, Sam, rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, and then rounding out the cars left on the lead lap were Lorne Murray and Stefan Schmidt in 11th and 12th positions. One lap down, not quite sure why, was Daniel De Vos, and then Dennis Neagle was in 14th position after an early incident. Bastian Huisman was also involved in, or was he the one who had his engine blow down there in 15th place? Richard Coulomb was the one involved in an incident down there in 16th. Stephen Paul rounded out 17th position after two incidents during the race. Marcel Seidel lost the connection while running in a pretty solid top 10. He ends up in 18th place, and colliding on the first lap were Daniel Holblin and Frederick Neptune in 19th and 20th. Neil Bamber did not start the race. He is being classified in 21st.
We have some interviews to do. First up, we have our fourth place finisher, Vincent Brame, with a thrilling battle to try and get onto that podium there at the end. And, excuse me, we enjoyed it the whole way through. Vincent, tell us about that last lap battle to try and get on the podium, and what caused that mistake into the chute that cost you that podium finish?
Yeah. I caught the curb on the inside, and I started to drift. I held it almost, but Twan hit me just a bit. So fourth instead of second. Too bad, but that happens.
Seems like that wasn't the only contact you had coming into the pit stops. Was it the second time you had a little bit of a nudge from your teammate?
No, it was the other way around. I nudged him.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we got in the pits together, like planned. But he was a little slower than I expected. So I had to brake really, really hard and slid right into him just a bit.
We couldn't even see any damage, so I guess it was no harm, no foul. Now, one question that we keep forgetting to do all season long, is you guys are the Two Stupid Dogs racing team. Now, is that in reference to a particular cartoon?
Yep, it is.
So, me and Amjad are not the only ones that remember it. we've been wondering for a long time.
Yeah, Wojtek came up with the name, and I thought it was appropriate.
Fantastic stuff. Well, this is still, I have to imagine, a good finish for you to the season. Fourth place, get yourself a nice top 5. How do you fancy your chances next season? Seems like the competition just keeps getting harder and harder.
Yeah, this season was really tough for me. I didn't have to pace most of the races. I had the consistency, but the pace I was way off. I think that will continue next season, to be honest. Twan and Johan are exceptionally fast.
Certainly have shown it this season. Well, thanks for coming and talking to us, and congratulations on a fourth place finish.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the broadcasts this season. They were absolutely awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for the great action to call. That was Vincent Brame, fourth place finisher for today. Up next, Sam has caught up with Wojciech Podajek, and he is going to talk to him about his second place finish in that great battle that he was involved with his teammate, Ann Tran.
Yeah, so congratulations on second place. However, I know there was a mistake entering the pits early on that possibly cost you a shot at win.
Oh yeah. I had this feeling that Tuan's gonna pit at this lap, and I was hoping him for pass me before the pit entry. And when I realized that he's actually pitting, it was too late. And I braked because I thought I'm gonna make it, and then that cost me around 3 seconds and 2 positions. But at the end, it paid off.
Now, I've got to admit, you may recognise that I'm a bit of a new voice here. Is second place your best finish of the season, and how happy are you with it?
Yeah, so far it's a best place, I guess so. Actually, the most of the season was kind of disappointing because I just couldn't get any good result. I mean, like I had a pace, I had consistency, but throughout the whole season, there has always been something like a tiny crash, huge crash, or something like that. So P2 is a really good result for me.
Well, it's good to hear, and hopefully we'll see you on more podiums if you decide to come back for next season. Now, talking about strategy for this race, had you all decided that it was definitely going to be a two-stop race before the lights went off?
Yeah, we all knew that we will have to pit twice, and when I was in the pack before the first pit, I was just talking to Vincent that we should stick together. And I don't know how, but after the first pit, he was 2 seconds behind me. And later on, I just thought that the best way for me will be to pit with 2 on. But yeah, you have all seen what happened, and that gave me P4 after the second stint. But luckily for me, I made it to P2.
So, final question before we let you go. Will we see you next season?
Of course. I will be there, and I hope for better results.
Well, we hope to see you back here in the interview room, maybe talking to us from the from Victory Lane next time.
Okay, I hope so.
All right, so that was your second place finisher. Thanks for coming to talk to us, and I'm going to hand it back to Joe Peak, who was called up with the race winner.
Thank you, guys.
Indeed, we've got Johan Hallberg, who we're pulling into the booth now to ask him about finally breaking that duck. Johan, you impressed us as soon as you showed up at Mosport. It took a few races, but you're finally in P1. How does it feel?
Oh, I'm so happy right now. Really happy. This time I got it, so yeah, I'm super happy.
Now, we were talking to the other drivers about whether or not they knew it was going to be a two-stop race. You went the longest of everybody on that first stop. Did you have any intention of trying to make it a single stopper, or did you know that you were going to make a second one?
At first, I was hoping to get just one stopper, but then Vincent Brem didn't quite keep up with the speed I got when Tuan and what his name was, Watercheck. I don't know how to say his name, but well, then I was thinking like, okay, I must do a second pit stop, so it's gonna be a splash and dash. So, and when I saw Brem like saving fuel behind me, so I decided to go a few laps earlier than I was first planned for. So
we wondered if him saving fuel behind you affected your decision to come on in. Now, you came into this this season halfway through, and you've obviously been a force ever since you showed up. Are you are your eyes on the championship next season, or are you not even thinking about that yet?
Well, I'm aiming for the championship next season, so yeah. But I hope there's going to be some more battles with me and Tran. I was hoping to that, so.
We have no doubt if he shows up next season, you guys are going to be back at it, and you're going to have the fan belt in the mix too, as well, I'm sure. Congratulations on your win once more. It is well earned, and I think it's probably going to be a popular one out here in the paddock. Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
That was Johan Hallberg, our winner for today, first-time winner in the Absolute Beginners Formula Neagle Cup. So we are going to close up today, closing up the season for this great series that puts on great races time after time. We obviously want to thank Dennis Neagle and Tony Hayes, who have organized this season. However, we have some big news that they are, in fact, Tony is actually stepping down, and Johan Vandenbelt is going to take over the organization of this league. So we look forward to that. Johan does a great job with the points already, and the additional responsibility should leave us with great results. Also, thanks to the software and hardware that we use for our broadcast, you can see listed on your screen. Thanks to the team today, Amjad, Sam, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel, and we are going to be changing that to at GSRC Broadcasting. I believe last I heard that should be on January 1st. So we're also on Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. And a special thank you to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who both provide music for our broadcast. Their music can be found at the locations listed on screen as well. Next season is going to kick off on January 17th. That'll be at Laguna Seca with an endurance race, and that'll be on a Sunday in January. So we have other upcoming races for other series on screen. Check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.